version of War Thunder? I suppose kind of, yeah. In a way. Enlisted is free-to-play FPS. It's based around squad-based mechanics in historical settings of World War II. It works really well. It's really fun to play.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bungle, hope you're doing well, and I hope you're having a great day. Today we're going over Enlisted, the World War II free-to-play first-person shooter. Much requested, much talked about. Hey Bungle, cover squads. What works well? What do you feel is a good composition, a good squad in Enlisted, and what's your recommendations on it? So, taking the feedback like I always do from my viewers, my subs, I'm going to make this video, and what we're going to do is kind of what I do here on this channel. We're going to talk about the types. So I'm going to give you the 12 types of squads that are currently in Enlisted of the date of this video being published in 2021, around Thanksgiving time. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Next, talk about the meta. What do I see kind of being the meta classes? And lastly, my take. So without further ado, let's begin. Kind of a refresher if you've been playing Enlisted or you're new to it, is that there are 12 types of squads in it. First of all, you got your mortar class. Mortar classes basically provide indirect fire support. They kind of sit away from combat, launch rounds at the enemy, pretty much all they do. And you can get kills pretty easily that way in open maps. Closed quarters, maps and stuff like that doesn't really do too well. Next, your assault class. Basically, these carry submachine guns. They like to go press the objective, be very aggressive. They're known for having faster soldiers, so they can run around the battlefield quickly and harass enemy. Next is your trooper class. This is pretty much your bolt action / semi-auto. You can take out up to 9, and this is pretty much your just general infantry. This is your regular foot soldiers that go on the battlefield. They're just more in mass, really, than anything else, so they can kind of pressure an objective by having a swarm of infantry show up on it. Next is your machine gunner. Machine gunner specializes in laying down a lot of rounds. The machine gun can be inaccurate if you don't set up the tripod or mount it on anything, so kind of to counterbalance that, you have to go and make sure that you're in a good emplacement to set it up, and also you're kind of slower with it, so you can't just run into the objective like an assault class. You're going to have to be kind of tactical where you set up your machine gunner. Next, your pilot. Pilot, pretty much your fighter pilot and your bomber pilot kind of interact on the battlefield with enemy aircraft and harassing the enemy with their vehicles and their tanks. So if you want to go harass the enemy and you want to go and prevent an advance, well, you can go drop in the bomber and bomb the enemy. If you're getting harassed in the air by enemy bombers, you just jump into your fighter and you deny the enemy air superiority. Next, we have your bomber class. Bomber class pretty much specializes in taking out tanks. So if you got tanks showing up on the battlefield harassing your team, well, you take out that Panzerfaust, show up, they go blow up that T-34-85 Russian bias vehicle. Next, your fighting troopers pretty much specialize in just denying an enemy objective. Like, let's say it's in a bunker and you're going in there and just a bunch of enemies, you spray your flames everywhere. It depends on the flamethrower being used, right? So if it's kind of a later war flamethrower, like in the Invasion of Normandy campaign, then you're going to be able to do way more damage and have a longer jet flame. If it's an earlier flamethrower, it's going to have a shorter range, shorter distance, and kind of lower time to kill. Basically, it's specialized with flame troopers. You just go onto the objective, spray your flame jets everywhere, deny an enemy the ability to maneuver and to use the objective to defend on, since there's flames everywhere and they'll catch on fire. Next, engineer. Engineer specializes in pretty much having a toolkit to respond to the enemy. You can build machine gun nests, you can build anti-tank guns, you can go build spawn points so your teammates can spawn in on you and press an objective. Really versatile class. You can also build ammo points to resupply your squads, your teammates as well. Next, your tanker. Tanker, pretty much, you have light tanks, you have medium tanks, and you have tank destroyers. Pretty much, tanker classes dealing with enemy tanks, dealing with the enemy, having that jack of all trades. It's really a heavily used class in Enlisted. Next is your rider or motorcycle class. Pretty much nothing really special about this, except it gives you the ability to kind of traverse the battlefield very quickly with a small squad. You can get out and harass the enemy. Next, radio operator. Radio operator, pretty much, you get to call in indirect artillery fire. It used to be very overpowered and it kind of got nerfed severely to the point that it isn't really used that often, but it's just there to stun the enemy and can occasionally kill an enemy squad or whatever if it's outside. Lastly, it's your sniper. Sniper pretty much is good at sitting up at long-range engagements and picking off the enemy and harassing them from their spawn point or near the objective, especially if it's a longer range map like the Invasion of Normandy. Now, for meta. This is kind of what I see as meta, and Enlisted. From my experiences of playing all the campaigns from Battle of Tunisia, Tunisia, to the invasion of Normandy, Battle of Berlin, Battle of Moscow. Pretty much this is what I use and what I see people using a lot too. Assault classes. Assault classes are always going to be used. The reason why is because it gives you that quick ability to run into an objective, harass the enemy with kind of a submachine gun, so high rate of fire, and harass the enemy and deny them the ability to capture the objective or to defend it. Next is your engineer. Engineers are always going to be used in Enlisted just because they give you the ability of dealing with any threat, such as a tank, building an anti-tank gun, building a spawn point so your teammates can kind of get closer to an objective to defend it or to capture it, as well as build ammo points. So if you're running out of ammo, your teammates need ammo, you can just build an ammo point, ammo box, and they can come in and respawn, and they can come in and refill their ammo on that. And it pretty much can build obstacles, barbed wire, build sandbags, prevent the enemy from being able to attack you or defend your allies and stuff like that. Next, tanker. Tanker pretty much is just a very useful class. You can deal with infantry and harass them. You can deal with enemy tanks. Pretty much is a jack of all trades, depending on the vehicle you want to use too. So if you're going into, let's say, Battle of Berlin and it's kind of a tank heavy meta, then you may want to take out a tank destroyer. If you're playing Invasion of Normandy, where it's kind of all over the place if people want to use vehicles or not, you can take out a multi-role vehicle like a Panzer IV-H or a Sherman Firefly and harass the enemy. Lastly, pilots. You're always going to see pilots in any game mode, because the reason why is that one, attacker pilots, bomber pilots have the potential to destroy the enemy and harass them, and same with fighters. Someone's always going to be in the air to try to go and stop you, especially let's say you're in a IL-2 or you're in a P-47 and you're bombing the enemy. Someone's going to get angry and get frustrated and spawn in a fighter aircraft and take you out, and you will do the same thing if someone's harassing you, especially like a GU-1888. Now, moving on down here for my take, my performance. All right, so kind of give you an overview like the squads, kind of how the troopers act and everything like that. Going down to my takes, it's like a toolbox. So when you build your squads, because this is kind of how it works too, is when you progress, and usually the level 1 squads are pretty easy to level up. When you get to level 2 and level 3, it kind of gets harder because for whatever reason, Enlisted or Darkflow or Gaijin decided to kind of just make it a total grind fest for it. But as you go and unlock your levels, right, my recommendation always is when you're going down and starting a new squad, that you want to unlock the XP first, because as you get more XP, gives you more of an XP boost, so you can expedite that grind. Once you max the XP boost, then you start adding more troopers to your squad, and then you kind of come down to the decision of, hey, do I want to add a bomber? Do I want to add an assaulter? Do I want to add an engineer? And my recommendation always is include engineers in your squads. So your squad compositions, right? If you're building, you can't include an engineer and a tanker or a pilot. Well, when you're building it, let's say we're going to use an example here. I always use it, assault classes, assault troopers, right? You're going down, you're building the assault trooper, right? You have the potential to add a engineer, right? Well, you want to go and add that engineer because one of the problems, especially playing with assault classes, is that you have a tendency to run out of ammo. So you're going to need an engineer to kind of build you that ammo box. You can also have that engineer there when you're pressing an objective, you're out there near the objective, kind of away from your team, and kind of in an area where you can build a spawn point. Well, what do you know? You can build a spawn point. Another thing too, with kitting out your squads, is that as you progress through the campaign levels, you unlock the ability to kind of equip a backpack or a secondary weapon. I'm always going to tell you to upgrade, give the backpack upgrade for your squad. The reason is because you can equip a thing called the large ammo pouch, which pretty much gives you a crap ton of rounds. You will have a lot of rounds to use when you're going out into combat, to the point where you may not need really to resupply, but it's still kind of there if you need it. And the reason why a large ammo pouch is better than, say, a large backpack or a secondary weapon is because you pretty much take out the weapon you feel comfortable using in that squad. So we're going to talk about assault squad. Let's use the Invasion of Normandy, the MKB-42H. We're going to take that squad out. I'm going to have a large ammo pouch, and I'm going to go and pretty much have one med kit, because let's be honest, med kits, sure, you can take out a large backpack with 4 med kits, but you're going to come with the trade-off of having only like 2 or 3 magazines, and then you're out of ammo. So me personally, like I said, and it's also a 50-50 chance too, if you're going to go down and have to revive yourself. So most of the time, I'm not going to really bother with that. I'm just going to press the objective, have a bunch of rounds so I can clear the room, and if someone dies with my squad, I can flip to another team member. That's pretty much what I recommend doing, especially when you're building these squad compositions and stuff. Engineers are always a priority. There's a debate of, well, Bungle, should I take 1 engineer or should I take 2? And my take with it really is at least have 1. You can also do 2 engineer squads. You can build 1 engineer in that squad and then have a bomber, class. You can take out tanks. You can do 2 engineers, and then you can have an addition of a machine gunner, which a machine gunner is always great to have in a squad, just because if you need to have a high rate of fire and a big enemy movement coming your way, switch to the machine gunner and harass the enemy. But that's my personal take on that. I hope you kind of take away here my thought process. That kind of helps you. Pretty much to sum it up is that when you're going down your respective campaign level, primarily try to use assault squads, your tankers, your pilots, and your engineers. It's going to really help you with your squad, expedite your grind, and building spawn points, everything like that. It's going to give you more additions to points, getting on that leaderboard. Another thing too is that when you're building your squad compositions, always include engineers, so that way you can resupply. And when you're researching that squad, make sure you go and unlock the backpack option, so you can include a large ammo pouch, which kind of gives you a squad more lethality in the combat. Other than that, I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.